So Spring Championship 2s is this weekend, right? Even though the last balance patch wasn't that crazy, might as well do new tier list because it's been like 2 to 3 months, I think. So we're gonna start with 2v2 weapons. Generally, I keep them unordered, but I'll state otherwise if I don't. With how I'm kind of doing it, I mean, honestly, I don't even need to have A kind of exist. We'll just get this out of the way for sure. The goated ones are, I think, these three. Specifically, Axe and Gauntlets. Cannon, you're not going to see double of it, but yeah, it's insane. Actually, double is OP. I like having this here. And then what we'll do also, in goated, I think you have to put Spear. Might have Lance up there for now. Then S, we'll put Sword. Actually, I'm just going to kind of do it. I'm just going to kind of do the tier list. Bow's definitely better. I think I need to add like maybe another tier, or I just do that. And I do that. But I don't think Hammer deserves to be that low. Maybe it does. Blasters are not that bad. It's just like I think the meta is just like weird. The issue is there's like just conditionals sometimes where it can depend on the character. I dig this. Okay, so we have the 2v2s unordered, and we'll just go top down. All right, Axe Gauntlets, individually, these are good and they can be paired, but I've been seeing so many double Axe and so many double Gauntlet teams. Someone asked, like, is double of anything even that broken when there's DI? Yes. The setups that you can do with each of these weapons is quick and fast damage, and also you can kill. With Gauntlets, you have N-Light, D-Light, Dare, Sare, and then you can go into a Sig, they're Dark Orange. Or you do that combo at later health, and then you hit the Sare, say your teammate's an Onyx, they D-Sig, now they kill, right? And then with Axe, you don't even need to consider using a Sig most of the time. You just do N-Light, Sidelight, Nair, Recovery, and if they're Dark Orange, that's gonna kill, especially if the map is lower ceiling. Axe, I think you have to think a lot less with than Gauntlets, but both are gonna have their moments because they can just turn into blenders. But Axe, I really feel like you swing and it doesn't even like matter where you swing. You're like using negative brain cells, just moving around and using, Nair, Dare with it. Below that, Cannon, Spear, Lance. I think all three of these are really good and they work well with each other, especially like Spear and Lance. Cannon individually is just so strong, so I had to put it there too. Sword, Boots, Bow. Maybe I could have a different tier for Boots, but like what people are gonna do on Boots, so I think that helps. And the damage isn't that great, it's more so of like what kind of setups you can get. And also the SIGs on the characters people are playing is what's broken. I don't know if it's necessarily Boots itself, unless you're dealing with them off stage and you get hit by like Dare and Ground Pound. I think Bow's good enough, but I do hate it into like double Axe especially. Might just be a me thing, but you are left in a lot of situations where the moves can feel too long, so your kit can be a little limited at times, I would say. When it's good, it's really good, and it works super well with Axe. And Sword, it's pretty easy to work with, but the combos aren't like necessarily going to be insane. Then in A+, I put Orb and Hammer. I think Orb actually could be very strong. It's just hard to kind of say. But then Hammer, same thing. It's kind of character dependent. And also when you're fighting double Axe, double Gauntlets, I feel like maybe picking Hammer would feel weird. Then Blasters, a lot of people like to say Blasters are like really bad. I don't agree. I think Blasters are pretty good. It's just when you see, especially everyone running Gauntlets, Axe, Cannon, and I mean, really everything in the top 5 that I have, that's so already good into Blasters. Then you nerf Blasters and make these things like super meta. That's just a nightmare for Blasters players, so you just don't see them anymore. And this last tier, they work in the meta because the meta are things that they would normally be. Like you play Guitars and you just treat it borderline like a 1v1 and just kind of fly around and do everything that's unpunishable with the weapon. These two weapons in particular, I think they're so good that you can just get away with it if you're good enough on them, especially with like Greatsword aerials. That's nice. And then again, Guitars just in general I think are broken. Scythe is probably the worst weapon to play in 2s, but I don't even know if that's saying much. It's probably by technicality, just because you can fall off of it. It is better than Greatsword, but I don't know. I'm curious to see tomorrow, since that's South America and Europe for the 2v2s, if Use will make Jaeon look really good in 2v2s, because if you play it right, you're just flying around with OP aerials. I haven't played much 1v1s, but we'll see what I can cook up. I mean, already know. I mean, it's kind of weird, but I'm just treating them like outliers. Maybe I don't even include this. I'm not going to include that. Okay, so 1v1s. Top 3, I think, is pretty obvious. Guitars, Greatsword, and Orb. All 3, I feel like there has been either a resurgence of them, or they've just been obviously doing super well. Hasn't been that many people playing like Greatsword, but I've been seeing an increased amount of like sword players play Jaeon, because I think people are realizing greatsword is still incredibly good. And then orb, I would say orb is generally a better version of sword. The string game in particular is just like nuts with orb, and I think it has like good defensive options, and on offense too. You catch a dodge, you can get like 3-4 hits really easy. S plus, I just felt like these were weapons I didn't want to really put in S, but I wasn't comfortable putting them in the top 3, so that's why these 4 are here. They're all super good. And then really, I mean, they all are, but in S tier, cannon, spear, bow, hammer, gauntlets, I think that they either kind of lose to the stuff that's in like top 3, or they might just not feel as good to play in ones because they have a certain move that's punishable, or you have to commit to certain things that on other weapons you don't. Then A plus, I put lance and blasters. I don't necessarily think they're bad. That's why lowest tier is A plus, but again, it's tough kind of playing either of these in ones. And twos though, obviously they're gonna be pretty good. 2v2 legends unordered. I'll call these the 4 horsemen, even though I know Zariel is like seen a ton. What do we think? I just want to have a tier that's called the 4 horsemen. I think Kaya has overall, in my opinion, I don't know, maybe a better answer. I think Kaya's bow is better. That's like the decider for me. I feel like I should include it though, because double gauntlets is so strong. Honestly, here's what we do. This is what we do. 100%. This is what we do. Just because the team comps, I feel like you're going to be seeing involve him and him together, her and him, them and him, or her. You know what I mean. Sentinel and C. Yeah, his stats are good. Azoth better than Jala, you think? No one just wants to touch Azoth. As a spicy little pick, I'll put him up here. And also put Cross up here. I don't mind the list. Moving stuff from here is like whatever. I just know in my bones, dude, I feel like these 3 are just so not it. Thea, Lance, and Boots is a good combo, but 3 defense is obviously so bad. The Sigs you can spam. Ember, low defense, 3 defense. Katars and bow, or the Sigs are pretty good. And then Yumiko, low defense, bow, hammer. I don't know. Volkov Artemis should be in the same tier, either A or B. Artemis's stats are way better. That's why I put her in A. And her Sigs are faster and less committal. All right. We have just finished the 2v2 tier list. Overall, unordered, but let it be known that the best character in the game, I think, is simply Wushang. Even going back to 2023, won Worlds with Zen on it. And in North America, you have this still being a super popular pick. And the team that won Winters won on Wushang, okay? Wushang Onyx. And then in other regions are just Coco Spyrox clones. If you don't know Coco Spyrox, what they played, they're a European team that played Ulgrim and Wushang. And in Brazil, you're seeing that pop up. In North America, I don't really know if you see it too much, but then in Europe, of course, there's so many of these teams. Then my 4 horsemen tier, these are characters that I think you're going to see paired with each other a lot, or with Wushang. But in here, I have Zariel, Brynn, Ulgrim, and Onyx. I don't think I really need to say too much about them. They all have like crazy stats or Sigs that are just so insane that it makes up for maybe a lack of mid stats or something, but none of them have bad stats, so it's just, you know, checking both of the boxes for that stuff. In S tier, all of this should make sense. Vivi, I put in S just because the Sigs have yet to be nerfed, even with guns kind of being so-so. I think 7 is super good and deserves a spot here. Stingray was the only person I've seen play this character, though, and I think we could see more representation if something like Gauntlets get nerfed or if Spear were to get buffed. Then it would make sense for Cannon players to try out 7 more. Cross and Azoth are probably the hottest takes for Legends. I mean, Axe definitely makes Azoth really good. His Sigs hit super hard. His stats are okay, and I think the Sigs are just very, very good. Yeah, I don't know. If it's a hot take, it's a hot take. If people disagree, for the most part, so be it. Then Cross as well. Guns got nerfed, and you don't see it played much, but I still think Gauntlets and Guns is an undefeated combo, and I want to say if you're good enough, because I don't want to necessarily bring skill into it, but if you know how to play Guns at a somewhat high level, then it's going to be very nice because you're going to get so many setups, and also he's great as a finisher character, and his stats, you can't ignore the fact that he has, generally, if you're going to run speed stance, 7 strength, 3 dex, 6 defense, 6 speed, which is very, very good. As far as the rest of them, I'm not really going to say too much about the characters. Maybe you could argue Barraza getting bumped up, but I didn't want to. Yeah, everything else seems to kind of make sense. C and D tier, I think D tier is just total bottom of the barrel. You notice there's 2 greatsword legends. It's kind of like, why would you even bother? Low defense for all 3 of them, and the ability for them to combo, it's just whack, and I don't think their Sigs make up for it either. Whereas in C tier, Thea and Ember, 3 defense, but at least their Sigs hit very hard, and I think overall they're pretty spammable and good, right? right? Yumiko, kind of the same thing. I just think Yumiko is maybe a step up over the 3 that are in D tier. All right, the final 1v1 unordered. I don't know. I want my tier list to have some, I like making my tier list somewhat different each time. So I just want to give people perspective as far as like what characters have won recently. And they can determine for themselves if the characters are actually broken or if it's more so an outlier and the person's that good. I want to put Magyar in S just because I can. I'll probably add A+. Legends, I would move into A+. Batch, I'll say Sentinel. Diana. Arcadia, I'm going to move up. Magyar, I was going to move up. Nyx, it feels weird move. I don't know if I want to move anything else. Having Jiro as the best low defense character in the game, the best 3 defenser, I think that's a base take. I think we'll call it with this tier list. All right, so 1v1 unordered tier list. Now, the only tier that to me is really worth talking about is the one trials tournaments tier. So if you don't know, the official trial tournaments were held in North America, South America, and in Europe. And here are the legends that won at least one of those tournaments, okay? You have Yumiko, which was Kaina. Jaehyun for Yuz. I think Kaina might have won on Taros, but I know Godly won on Taros, at least one of them. Godly on Asuri. Guichibu on Linfei. And then Red Raptor was Radish. And of course, who else aside from Sandstorm for Mordex, right? If anything, what I'm noticing is that the most diverse region when it comes to winners, and of course there's 3 different winners, was North America. And then from there, it's kind of like, you know, Godly, Kaina both playing Taros. And then Yuz when he got back on Greatsword. This is a bit of an outlier, and surprisingly, Asuri is somewhat of an outlier in this, even though Godly, I think, used Asuri like for 2 of those tournaments at least. This isn't to say that they are the best characters in the game. It's more so just an interesting way to kind of represent a tier list, I guess, by showing, you know, look at all these legends and how I have them ordered, but here's actually what's winning. S+ are characters that I think have gotten close to winning or are also just that good and they haven't won a tournament yet. Looking at it, probably the 3 that stick out to me the most are Ezio. You just don't see him represented, but I do think Ezio is like insanity. Zol, I think the cannon and axe, the high strength combo is insane. You just see Snowy playing Zol right now. Maybe there's someone in like Europe, but I do think Zol is really, really good. And then Jiro, I think Jiro deserves S+ because he is easily the best 3 defense legend. His sword is absolutely insane, and I think when fighting other Scythe legends, he has a pretty good matchup. His one big drawback, of course, is the defense, but at the same time, his stats work out for him very well with his weapons. Then from there, Vivi and S is kind of where I have her. If blasters were better, she'd probably be best character in the game. She is more than likely best blasters right now. Speaking of blaster legends, Lucian is extremely good. Again, blasters so-so, but Katars are insane, and his Katar kit is just nuts. Moving on, the rest of these legends from A+ to B should probably make a lot of sense. Cross might seem a little low. Maybe Isaiah seems low, but it's just where they fit overall in the meta. I think it's kind of easy for them to get taken advantage of. And Cross in particular, I just don't think his SIGs are nearly as effective in 1s as they are in 2s. And then the 2 worst characters in the game, and maybe it's a lack of representation, but Nash, negative reason to play Nash. Also, Reno just has the worst orb in the game, and I don't think that's up for some sort of debate. His D-Sig and side Sig, I think, are pretty mid. His N-Sig is really good, but His stats are so bad themselves, right? He has like okay speed, he has okay strength, and you're gonna want higher strength on both blasters and orb. All the really good orb characters, they have one thing in common. It is high strength on orb, and he just doesn't have that, as well as just having worse Sig. So I think he instantly gets demoted down to possibly being worst character in the game right now. I'd like to be proven wrong. I think Reno's sick, but yeah, that is the 1v1 tier list. And with that, that wraps up the tier list.